Hello, welcome to another episode of the Virtual Ninja Show. My name is Heike and I have Steve back with me. Welcome back to the show, Steve. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Heike. My name's Steve Newby. I'm part of the CXE team within Microsoft, the customer engineering team. And today we're going to be talking about the Microsoft POC as a service, proof of concept as a service.
Wow. So before we get into the topic, Steve, who is our audience? Who should watch this?
This is directed at customers who want to evaluate the Microsoft security products. So whether they're looking at the M365 Defender suite, whether they're looking at Sentinel, Defender for Cloud, we've got options around all of these. And if it's something you're not sure about from a product perspective and you want a safe environment to test in, then this is an option for you. And it's something that you can have a discussion with your account team about.
Okay, so let's see if we cover my next question when we just kick it off with your first slide, please.
Okay. So what is POC as a service? So it's something we built as part of our customer engineering team. It's a program that's been developed in conjunction with the product group to ensure that we've got a good way of delivering a structured lab to a customer. It's delivered by our fast track team, which is part of Microsoft. We've worked with partners to deliver this, or the Microsoft technical specialists. So as a customer, you may have a technical specialist who's been aligned to you to help you understand some of the products and how they're used. And these technical specialists also have the ability to deliver these POCs. We built them to address the need for high quality, high touch evaluations. And the benefit of these things is that we can spin them up really quickly. So you can actually get a POC done in a very quick time span. It's built in a virtual lab. So it's built to demonstrate product value, ease of deployment, how you utilize the product. What it doesn't do is showcase how it works in your production environment, but in a lot of cases, we do this with customers and they go and build these virtual labs. We build it, we walk them through the feature functionality. They do a lot of testing, and then they go and do a small scale pilot within their production environment to see about additional impact. And we can work as TSs, as the engineering team alongside the customer to evaluate that as well.
Okay, so there was a lot in there now. So
yeah.
You mentioned it's delivered by Fast Track. So that means if a customer is out there that is interested, what would be the way to contact Fast Track? And then you mentioned TSs. What is a TS?
So it's the Microsoft technical specialists. So these work alongside the sales specialists on helping you understand the products, providing feature updates, roadmaps, working with you on things like RFPs and POCs themselves.
Cool. So, and again, it is a dedicated virtual environment. It's not part of the customer environment. So it will be spin up in the background from us. And then they can run this proof of concept in there, learn about all the amazing things, and hopefully start a little pilot in their own environment to then test the same things out, but in the actual production environment. That's usually how they go. Okay.
So let me just cover off what we cover here. So workloads. So we have Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Identity, Office, Defender for Cloud Apps, Information Protection, Purview, Sentinel, and Defender for Cloud. So all of these workloads are available, and we have structured content around each of these workloads. We have specific labs, we have demos, and building the lab will then allow you to walk through the different content in conjunction with a subject matter expert. So typically a fast track specialist who can work with you and take you through some curated content around how to use the labs and how to do the demos and understand the features and functionality of the products.
Wow. So before we continue here, those are now all our individual workloads. That means if someone is like, oh, I would like to do XDR they have to go through all of these to learn the individual products, or can we combine some modules to make it an XDR one?
That's a really good question there, Heike. So we actually do have an XDR plus SIEM offering. So we do actually combine some of these workloads. So XDR plus SIEM is one option, but we can essentially combine any of these things because the lab itself is the same lab. So if you wanted to do Defender for Endpoint, and you love that POC so much that you said, actually, I'd love to do Office on top of that, then that's something we can do. Actually, the Defender for Endpoint POC has a lot of Defender for Identity in it anyway, because it makes sense when you're looking at how an organization is attacked and the protection available. Looking at both endpoint and identity is really important. It's something that the attackers don't really differentiate, and that's how you detect attacks. You respond to incidents by looking at those aspects. And then feeding that into Sentinel as well. So Sentinel is typically attached to most of these labs anyway. So we see alerts coming in, we see incidents, we look at the M365 XDR connector going into Sentinel. So again, all of that can be looked at. But the curated content we have depending upon which workload you're doing. When you as a customer get access to the lab afterwards, you have full global admin access on the lab. You can do whatever you want in it. You can run pen tests, you can run your own demos, you can onboard your own devices into it. And at the end of that time period, we decommission the lab, we scrub everything gets deleted. So there's no concern around any of your company information being left around on the lab.
Okay. So I guess, Steve, we are going to look into how these individual days, hours look like a little later, the content. Let's roll.
Okay. So what can you expect from this? So we have a set of goals. When we created the lab, this whole program was designed about 2.5 years ago. We came up with this concept. We had feedback from customers and from our field sales that they wanted a way to quickly evaluate the products. So we designed the lab within my team. We built the first environment, and the first environment was just Defender for Endpoint. And over the course of that 2.5 years, we've expanded out the other workloads. So the goals are to learn. So as a customer, you learn what the products do, how to use them, how to interact with them, what the benefits are for you. Experience product in action. So it's not just a product demo. We actually have attack simulations that run in there. There's specific demos that are created. There's pre-hydrated content in the lab, so it feels like it's a live environment. And you can explore the product and look at the different scenarios that you might have within that. So we talked there about the global offerings, which I covered, but what can you expect? So once you get into this, you have a guided process with the SME that's aligned to you. And typically the labs last from anywhere from sort of 5 sessions up till about 9 or 10 sessions. And we do that over a week or two. We can condense it. We can spread it out a little bit. But we want to try and keep the focus. As a customer, we want to try and keep you focused on the lab itself. And then we have these training and walkthrough scenarios. So we've built this up. We've looked at the feedback. We've understood what the customers are going through and the types of like attacks that you see in the wild, and we've simulated that within the environment. And then it's about who should attend. We don't want a cast of thousands attending these engagements. So typically we look at anywhere from sort of 5 to 12 people is a sort of sweet spot, but the people who should attend are CISOs, security SOC analysts, IT security admins, IT operations admins, the sort of people who would be using these products day in, day out and making decisions about the security that's relevant to their company. So this is an MDE. So this is the Defender for Endpoint delivery schedule. So we do have delivery schedules for all of the products. We start off basically with an overview, and actually session 1 is very similar for all of the workloads. It starts off with like an overview of the products. It walks you through what we've got in the lab itself. Then, and again, this is specific to MDE, we walk into how you onboard a device. Because when you implement the product in a live environment, onboarding is kind of the first thing you're doing. So you're getting those machines into the environment, looking at how they show up there. And then we walk through management. We define how role-based access control, the RBAC, works within that. And then antivirus, so the prevention and what we have in terms of AV and the things like attack surface reduction, the next generation protection, how we utilize cloud services to provide additional attack scenarios or detections. Looking at section 6, we walk through into the detection investigation. So how you're using the portal, how you're looking at the alerts that are coming in, looking at some of the automation that's involved, where we have automated investigation response and things like attack disruption as well, where it's automatically stopping attacks for you. Section 7 is hunting, helping you walk through things like KQL queries to understand how you mine the data itself. So within Defender and within all our Microsoft security products, there's a wealth of data there. And we present a lot of it to you within alerts and instance. But there's also the ability to hunt through that data yourself. And this applies to all of our tools. You can use KQL and you can write queries to really extract the data that's relevant to you. And we'll help you understand how to structure those queries. And actually the use of KQL today is a lot easier than it was previously. There's a lot more that can be done. And especially if you're using Copilot. Copilot can essentially write those queries for you. And then just the sessions 8 and 9, we talk about threat vulnerability management and then reporting, cross-platform. We have a bit of roadmap information in there. So this is probably our longest training schedule. We do have shorter ones for some of the other products, but this is probably the most. And like you say, it's 9 sessions. You can do this over 9 days. We do have customers who've done it in 4 or 5 days by compressing things or maybe not doing one of the sessions. So there are ways to manipulate that if the timing doesn't suit you.
But MDE is such a beast and you want to cover a lot, and you still didn't cover everything, by the way, but you start, of course, with the onboarding, and you need to make sure management policies are all set. So basically get the basics set up by ensuring the whole full prevention is configured the right way, but also talk through it and explain what is attack surface reduction, which again contains so many products in itself. And then you have AV, you could talk. I know people that can talk for 4 days just about AV.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
And then you go into basically, I would call it a little bit the EDR functionality, right? So you have automation and threat experts, our hunting service, and then hunting itself, MDVM, device discovery, awesome to find all the unmanaged devices, IoT devices, and all these things.
Yeah.
And then important reporting and API and what else is there. So awesome.
Yeah, and we do all of this around the lab itself. So this is the lab. This is what we build. We have the different Defender products. You have an Entra tenant. We have a domain controller. So it's all done virtually. So we create a Azure subscription that we stand the virtual machines up in. We have this domain controller. We have a Windows Server 2016 data center server. And you may think, well, actually, why are you using an old version of Windows Server there? The domain controller is more recent, but we specifically use an older version of Windows Server 2016 so that you can see the different types of agents that we have and the ability to support those older OSs. We have Linux in there because not everyone uses Windows. And again, we walk through the onboarding process for Linux and how that works. We have 3 Windows devices. We have a Windows 11 device, we have a Windows 10 device, and we have a Windows 10 V device. V stands for vulnerable. So we specifically underconfigure that. So we don't have the right patches on it. We don't have the right policies on that, because then it shows up in the vulnerability management and we can showcase the types of reports that are there. For companies that use Macs, again, not everyone uses Windows. We have an agreement with a company called Mac Stadium who provide cloud-hosted Mac services. We create Mac instances within their environments, and we create a virtual network back to our environment. So we essentially host the Mac OS in the Mac Stadium environment and connect it into our VNet, so that as part of the whole engagement, you can see how we deal with all the different supported OS types.
Things have changed, Steve. I remember years ago when we desperately tried to get some virtual Macs up and running to do some demos and things, and there was no way.
Yeah.
Things have changed. Yes.
We've been working with Mac Stadium for a while now. Obviously the challenge with Mac is that it has to run on Mac hardware, which is not something we can provision within Azure. So that's why we went to Mac Stadium, who've been great in helping us with that.
Awesome. So, wow, this is a rich setup with a lot of machines and diverse machines. So, Steve, when should customers use the POCs, the different individual ones?
So this is a conversation you should absolutely have with your account team, your Microsoft account team, to look at if you have an interest in the new products and you're looking at the different workloads, whether it's a new requirement you have or looking at replacing something that you have in place right now. Speak to your account team, and then we can talk to you about what the value is here. So really, it will be there to provide a sort of detailed view into end-to-end value. So looking at the different workloads, how they benefit you as a company. We provide the customer with a pre-built virtual lab. The lab is built on a commercial tenant. So we have scenarios where some customers might have a need to build on something like a GCC tenant. We can't build on a GCC tenant due to the way our licensing is. But what we can do is highlight the differences. So if you were to evaluate and you had the need, then we have the ability to sort of highlight if there are any differences. So you can take that into account when you do that. Mm-hmm. When you finish the engagement, you do get access to the lab for an additional 1 to 2 weeks. And within that, you can do whatever you want. You can, like I say, you can onboard your own devices. You can do pen testing. You can just trial different things within that environment. You can use it to skill up your own resources in preparation for deploying the environment into the products into your own environment. What it does do is it gives you that workshop. It gives you that hands-on experience. So we try and get as much hands-on as possible in there. And you have the fast track SME or someone from CXE, which is the team I'm in.
Or partners.
Yes. The partners are specifically, right now, they're specifically there for language support. So where we've got language support for delivery in Japan, in France, and LATAM, so Spain. So that's where the partners are primarily used for right now. What it can't do, it's not custom. So in order to make this repeatable and scalable, that it's sort of fixed in terms of what it can do. Now, that's not to say you can't then change stuff. You define your own policy or do whatever you want to once the engagement's finished. But in terms of the configuration, the workload, it's not really customizable. It's not there to provide product training for the respective workload. It will do a lot of skills transfer. It will help you with a lot of things, but it's to help you evaluate the product rather than train you in the product. Mm-hmm. And we don't provide a deployment or migration plan, but that is something that can be looked at following on a successful deployment here. So as an example, Fast Track have initiatives where they will then do a deployment within your live environment as part of standing up the first instance of your technology.
Cool. So yeah, if customers have their own infrastructure with very different technologies, it's not in this way customizable. Like we bring the Microsoft environment with Linux and Mac, but the rest we probably, as you had on the slide, right? So we have Entra ID, and we will use our management tools and not work with third-party management tools. Even if the customer might have them, they can try it in their own environment then.
That's right. One thing I should mention, though, is that we do have an option for an in production POC. So we can actually deploy the POC in your production environment. So there are very sort of strict criteria around that. So you have to be using Intune. There's various change control that needs to be in place. So specific elements that need to be enabled in your network to support it. But we do have the option to do an in-production POC, and that might be better suited for some customers. And in conjunction with that in-production POC, we also still give you the lab. So you still get access to lab, so you can do that training without any risks to your own environment, but it also stands up an in-production POC in your live environment.
And you can still then also wipe it out?
So the in-production POC, because it's on a customer tenant, we don't have the ability to wipe that. But because it's on a customer tenant, then you as a customer define who has access to that anyway. So typically when it's deployed in production, it's us guiding you on how to set it up rather than us actually setting it up for you. So we don't have any admin rights into your live environment when that's done.
Cool. So I assume that many customers, they try it out themselves and they might have a little lab running somewhere. So why would they go and ask for a guided POC as a service?
It's a really good question. So why choose it? When you're looking at a new product, whether it's a replacement or you have a new need within your environment, you will have a certain set of security goals and objectives. One thing that we've had successful delivery that they come back and said, actually, we were going to produce an RFI, but we ran through your POC as a service and it literally answered all the questions we would have put into an RFI. So it's something that again, you discuss this with your account team, with the TS, and you define those objectives and security goals, and then we see how they can be met and addressed during the purpose of the POC. You're learning all of these security scenarios in a virtual lab environment. So you're keeping your production environment safe.
And clean. Clean and safe.
Clean and safe. Exactly. Yeah. Clean and safe. Yes. So although I talked about doing an in-production POC, one of the challenges is the fact that there are certain things you need to do. So you need to make sure that you have the right change control in place. You need to make some network changes. You need to make sure that people have the appropriate rights. When we're doing it in a virtual lab environment, we do all that for you. And we put that environment in front of you with everything you need to just start testing straight away. You can do as many tests as you needed. There's no limit to what you do in that lab environment. If you do so many tests and change so much stuff and run malware, do destructive tests, if you destroy the lab through all of the testing you've done, it's fine. We don't care. But the value is you've destroyed a lab. You haven't destroyed anything on your production environment. We will simulate real threats. Within that environment, we'll simulate the threats. We'll talk about how to respond to threats. But if you want to actually put live malware in that lab environment, that's something that you can do. We will not provide you with any live malware. It's not something we as Microsoft would do. But if you wanted to do that yourself, then that's fine. So test it, use it, love it.
Nice. So, Stephen, as I know us and especially your team, what's next? So, we have Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Identity, Defender for Cloud Apps, data security, Sentinel. I probably forgot one.
Well, what's next? You may have heard of this thing called Copilot. So Copilot is something that's obviously we have Copilot within M365, but we also have Security Copilot. So those elements are things that we've been asked about. The account teams are saying, well, can we do this? And so we've started to actually incorporate Copilot within some of our POCs. So we've got playbooks of Copilot. We can help customers get a feel for the value of Copilot, how it works with you in a security aspect, but also how it works with you in M365. So as an example, the information security purview POC as a service there's a big Copilot push within that to show how Copilot respects the boundaries of your information security. On top of that, we have something called eval as a service. So eval as a service is the ability for us to build into an existing Azure subscription. So what we do with POC as a service, we provide everything. We provide the subscription, and then at the end of that time, that's shut down. But let's say you as a customer have your own test lab, and you've got a subscription in that, but you haven't got all of the scenarios, and you want to create a sort of test lab using our products. We can actually build our lab straight into your subscription. So that's something that we've been working on as well. And then the final thing that we're looking at is something called pen test as a service. So within POC as a service, we've got it's about testing the functionality of product. But with pen test as a service, we're going to build a lab where it's specifically hardened. So you can then run evaluations and do red teaming against that lab and just see what you can actually breach in terms of the policies. So we produce a lab that is fully hardened with the maximum lockdown on it, and then it's up to your red team or purple team to then look at that and see where they can get in, and hopefully they'll be blocked in most cases.
So we talked about deploying this into the customer environment before. Is this then the eval as a service?
No, the deployment into the customer environment is in the production POC is simply just a standard build with a trial SKU. So the eval as a service is something different, because in order to use eval as a service, we would need to have global admin rights on the subscription and sort of subscription ownership. So it's not suitable to build into a production environment, but it would be suitable to build into let's say a customer's lab environment where they have control on.
Got it. So you talked about Copilot. Does this come with any additional costs or something? Because, it costs money.
So right now the POCs that we're doing, so we are utilizing internal resources to provide those Copilot scenarios. So there's no cost. In fact, there's no cost. Just to be clear, there's no cost for running this POC to you as a customer at all. There is something that we are working on with Copilot, and we're utilizing internal resources to showcase what's available. We are looking at what can be done in terms of trial licensing for Copilot. And that's something that's being discussed at a different level to me.
Yes. So I think this is awesome that we actually have something like this for our customers. Any final words from you, Steve? I mean, you talked a lot, you explained a lot, but call to action or something, feedback.
The call to action, I've said it throughout, but if you've got a need, you're looking at replacing or implementing new security products, speak to your account team, your Microsoft security specialist or account exec, and actually ask how you can POC the products, how you can POC this, how you can get POC as a service involved to look at the delivery of these different workloads and really experience the benefits of the M365 Defender security suite.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Steve, for bringing this to the show. I think this is an amazing offering that we have. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and I hope I'll see you all soon again. Bye.